Aloha, and welcome to interviews that we're doing for the Maui Pono Network for the 2024 elections. And with me is Sheila Walker, and also joining me is Bruce Douglas and Ann Cathley, who will be also joining in interview questions. So Sheila, welcome, nice having you with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to your audience. Thank you to the Pono Network. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about my candidacy.
Great. Well, nice having you here. And let's start off, Sheila. I mean, it's such a huge commitment to stand up for office, to run, and sometimes what can be even a hostile environment or a challenging environment. What is your motivation to take this step and really serve our community in this way?
I appreciate your question because actually it's not for everybody. This is not an easy position to take. And luckily, I've already had a prolific career and I'm retired. So I have plenty of time. I still have plenty of energy because I'm still young enough to do it. And I'm dedicated and devoted to Maui and the people here. So it takes a lot of dedication and energy in order to run a race like this, and you have to have time. You definitely have to have the time. So it's unfortunate that so many people who are in their 30s and 40s are busy running their business. They're busy with their families. They don't have time to get involved in politics. So I've already sold my business. I've already done my own career. And now it's time for me to give back to the community, for me to spend my time in public service. And I'm happy to do so. I have the time to read through all the issues, to actually pay attention to what's going on. And I'm not involved with my own family. Luckily, I don't have children, actually. And that's one of the reasons I can do this so easily, because I can do this full time, give it my full time energy, and I take it seriously. So this will be my full time career.
Great. Well, Sheila, I hear your commitment, and again, we're looking at quite a few areas of Maui right now that would be involved in this district that you're running for. And could you just give an overview of those different districts and how your engagement and civic participation has been becoming, I guess, more aware of what's happening in the specifics within this area that you'll be representing, as well as anything that you've done in terms of civic participation in helping to make changes?
Yes, Paul. So the district is pretty broad. It runs from beyond Kaanapali all the way up through a little bit of past Kaanapali, and then down all the way through Mo'alaia, through Kihei, and all the way down to McKenna. And then from Mo'alaia, it goes inland towards a little bit of Waikapu. So there's a large swath of area, and it incorporates so many different communities and different diversities, different pockets of people and communities. So I do participate in every single one of these communities, from the golf communities up north to or west, wherever you, however you want to call it, like northwest. Maui's kind of an interesting shape, and so the golf courses up north, and participating in the Boys and Girls Club, both Boys Club, Boy Scouts also, that sponsor different golf tournaments, and then coming down through the McKenna area. So I participate in all the local festivities, including the Kihei Association and my local neighborhood, because I live in Maui Meadows, so I'm part of the Maui Meadows Association, and then into the Waikapu area, and where they do lots of festivals, especially around the holidays. So all of the local community things are very, very important to me, and I love participating and supporting those groups.
Great. Thank you, Bruce.
Yes, Sheila. So running as a Republican, it's a very minority party in the state of Hawaii, which is one of the most Democrat states in the union. How is it going to be for you, dealing with the, minority issue of a Republican Party, and then getting into the state house or the state Senate itself, where you'll be treated as a minority? How are you going to navigate that?
Thank you. So yes, we are the minority, but we're the silent majority. We are loud. So we may not have the votes, but we do have the voice, and we can stand up for what we believe in. And we did multiply our seats by double. We doubled our seats. We had 4, and in the 22 election, we doubled that. So now we have 8. And in this election, we will double it again. So we will have 16 people in both the House and the Senate, I'm confident, after this election. So we just need to like keep growing little by little, and then it'll be a more balanced legislature. And we need both sides. I mean, it doesn't need to be all Republican. We need both sides in there. So we need partially Democrats, partially Republicans. And that's how our government is meant to operate, with both voices being heard. And we represent the people. And there are conservative people here. There are plenty of Republicans who want to be heard in the legislative House and Senate. So I feel like there's a place for us, and now is definitely the time.
And could you summarize your platform, what issues you stand for? What are the main things important to you?
Thank you for asking. This year, the past year and 2 years have definitely changed my thoughts on how we need to operate. I mean, originally, when I ran in 22, I had a platform of certain things. Now, because of the Lahaina fires, I'm even more adamant about fire safety. I'm more adamant about creating 2 more firehouses, the one in Oluwalu and the one in Waikapu. We need fire protection before we build more housing. Of course, housing is number one. We have to have affordable housing and more housing for everyone. But unless we have fire protection for everyone, it does not make sense to overbuild and make those communities vulnerable to fire. We also need better exit strategies from our communities. As we know, you couldn't get out of Lahaina during those fires. We need an exit road from Kihei. We need that connector road going from Lapoa over to Haile Miley. So we definitely need some better exit strategies. So my number one priority is fire protection, fire exits, and then finishing that hospital over at the west side. We need more medical facilities on the west side. And if we are going to rebuild Lahaina, we need a way to get those construction materials over to that town without clogging up the poly, because if that poly is shut down, you're sure to die. If you have a heart attack or a stroke, there's no way you're going to get to the hospital. So we need medical facilities on the west side, and we need a way to get those supplies, the building supplies, over to Lahaina. And I would propose that somehow we ship them over on some sort of boat and create some sort of temporary pier so that those supplies can be moved over by water instead of using our poly to transport those things. So those are the things that are top of my mind. And I know they're on top of the community's mind because I'm in the community daily and I hear what they have to say. And those are the priorities.
Thank you. And with that, I pass it to Ann.
Welcome, Sheila. Thank you
Thanks,
for
Ann.
coming.
Thank you.
You've got quite a challenge taking on Lahaina with the tragic fires. So as I'm sure you know, this Senate Bill 2919 passed, and that would authorize the county governments to regulate and potentially ban short-term rentals. And then after that came Mayor Bisson, along with County Rollins Fernandez, that wanted to repeal this act, in Manitowoc Act, that for decades of old short-term rentals to convert to long-term, the Manitowoc ones, the listings in the apartment areas, to ban those and convert those to long-term. Do you think that's the way to alleviate the housing crisis that exists and the emergency that exists? I know it's not going to take place in Lahaina until 2025.
So thank you for asking. So you're asking if I think that's the remedy.
Well, or do you have other remedies?
Yeah, I have other remedies, and that is absolutely not the remedy. And entrepreneurs, business owners who have a legitimate, and I'm saying legitimate, short-term rental should not be penalized because they happen to operate a business here. And that issue should have been addressed long before the Lahaina fires. The Lahaina fires are just highlighting that. And anyone that's operating an illegal short-term rental, obviously those people need to be prosecuted, and those units need to be stopped. But there's so few of those units that's minuscule compared to what we really need. So that is not the solution to solving the housing issue here. And look, we've been working on the housing issue for 30 years here, and no one's been able to resolve it. Why? I don't know why. I'm not sure what's happening here. I don't understand why everything gets blocked, why the permitting situation takes so much time to qualify anyone for permits. So I will get to the bottom of it. And look, Angus McKelvey has been in his in the political arena for over 18 years. Has he been able to solve anything? Has he produced any results from this? No, he hasn't helped in any way. So I don't know. Maybe I won't be able to help anything, but I certainly will try, and I will spend my 24/7 time working on this issue, because I think that we all need to have small business protected. Small businesses need to flourish, and everyone needs housing. And there's just obviously not enough housing to go around. And this new proposal by the governor and the mayor to put in this new 430 unit housing facility that's going to go around the Waikapu area. Okay, great. That's wonderful. But how long is it really going to be affordable housing? Because what they do, they put it on the market as affordable. And then once their government stipend runs out, or their tax credits run out after 10 years, then it goes to market rate. And if we just keep repeating this over and over and over, that's why we're in this debacle in the first place, because no one has the, I don't know, the chutzpah to stop this from just repeating it. We need permanent long-term housing for the affordable market rate for all of the people that we need to service this area, all the people that run our community, the bus boys, the housekeepers, anyone who's in the service industry. They have to have fair market rate housing that's affordable for them at their level of affordability, not at the middle class or upper classes affordability. And we can't eventually turn those units into market rate. They have to stay at affordable for those for our community, because they're the people that support us. We have to start supporting our service people and the middle class, because if we don't, there will be no more middle class. It will only be the elites and the serfs that live 20 people in a tiny 3-room house that services the elites. And what kind of community is that? What kind of aloha is that? What kind of Hawaii spirit is that? It diminishes everything that makes this place special. So it's time for us to take a good hard look at what people have been doing and what people in our leadership have been doing over the last 30 years, and make a better plan, make a different plan, and help us serve the people in our community.
Well, I think that the problem, the whole issue, is the urgency of the matter. I think that the hotels contracts will expire sometime in July, and what can be done considering the urgent matter of this.
And look, I mean, this is just, I hate to say it, but it's common sense. The military goes to other countries. They build temporary cities in a matter of weeks, complete with hospital facilities, complete with everything you need to run a small city. If they really, really wanted to house all the people of Lahaina, they could have put that up within a matter of months. The truth is, they don't want it to happen. They're not willing to make it happen. And it's just disgusting. I'm absolutely appalled that that didn't happen, and that the people are not being cared for in a way that they deserve. They did not want this fire. They did not ask for this tragedy or disaster to happen to them. And we can't even step up and bring our military in here and create a temporary city for them to live in. I don't know why, but I'm suspicious of that, because I've seen them make those small, tiny cities in other countries in the Middle East and in other parts of the world. So I know it can be done. It can be done fast, and it can be done with the amount of money that they've already brought in for all the different charities and organizations and the millions of dollars they've already produced. We could easily have built a small temporary city to house and feed and provide medical services for every single fire victim from Lahaina.
That's a different approach. Haven't heard of that one. All right. Well, thank you, Sheila, for that.
Thank you.
So Sheila, I get to ask the next question, but I'm just going to ask a very brief one though, that on the topic that you were just on with housing and having it be for our community so it's more permanent in terms of affordability. One of the models that have been utilized here in our community for the last 15, 20 years is Nahale Omale, which is a basically community land trust where the property, once the government actually puts money into the infrastructure and into really helping the construction so that it makes it affordable, then they are made affordable in perpetuity. So that means that way into the future, generations gone by, they'll still be affordable. Is that something that you would support?
Okay, look, Paul, I mean, yeah, the land trust sounds good. It sounds good on the outside. So, but I'm an entrepreneur. I've been a small business owner and I think differently. Everyone who owns their own property, they need to own their house and the land. So you put your money into a trust, a co-op, you don't really own anything. And the reason you want to own something, you actually want to own the physical thing, is that so you can leverage your asset. It becomes an asset. If you buy into a land trust, you have no asset. There is nothing. Sure, you have a roof over your head, but you actually don't own anything. And then you can't borrow against it. So I would prefer small communities, small houses where people actually own the house,
Right.
own the land. They could borrow against it. They could leverage their money and they will have that as an asset and they'll reduce their taxes by owning an
I
asset.
understand. I understand,
So
Sheila.
that's what I would prefer.
Yeah. And really, but I understand. But again, the people who are in these community land trusts own their property. So that's part of it. They have
But they can't borrow. Can they borrow against it?
sure, but they can't borrow as much as it would
See?
because they don't appreciate the same type of way. But again, it makes it affordable so that it can be passed on from generation to generation, and it allows people to live here. So again, it's not a big investment, like you're saying, where they get a windfall if they wait for a period of time. But again, that's why I just asked where you're
Of
at with
course,
that.
but there should be
Okay.
better options for them, better than a land trust. So,
I
and
understand,
there
but that was
are
just, that's why I
there
just,
are smarter
I
ways
know
of
there
doing
are,
it.
I just asked you a
So
question.
yeah,
That's all.
so it's okay.
I just wanted,
I'm
just
just
a
very
brief question.
passionate. I'm
Yeah.
passionate about this stuff, and I want to see people thriving, and I hate to see people buy into things because they're desperate, and people are desperate right now, and they'll basically sign up for anything because they need a roof over their head, and
Right.
and
I
I want
understand
them
that.
to make smart decisions
I got
and
that, Sheila.
have better opportunities, and we can provide better opportunities.
Right.
There are solutions, and they're not hard. They're simple.
So Sheila, so there's one issue though that doesn't seem that simple, but is so crucial to the future of our community. And that has to do with the education system that is controlled on a state level. So if you go to be a senator, you're going to be directly involved then with that type of education issue that so greatly affects our counties. We're the only state where that the counties don't have their own educational board and that level of control. So what would you do if you were in that position at the state level to affect our educational system?
Thank you, because this is something I'm passionate about as well. And you know when that happened? Do you know when they took away the school boards and took away the county's ability to govern their own schools? Somewhere in the 1980s, mid 80s, they decided that the governor would control the school system. And before that, we did have school boards. Our local communities were in charge of our own schools, and we did govern ourselves. And so it's time to go back to that. We are the only state that doesn't have local school boards. Local parents should be in charge of what's happening for their children in their schools, and each county should determine what's needed in their area, not just the statewide, because as we know, every single county is very specific, not just the county, but every community within our counties. So specific. We have specific needs, and each parent has different needs. And so the parents need to be involved. The parents need to be voted into the school board. They need a voice in what's happening, not just this overall blanket governance by this, appointed board from the governor. We've got to get back to our grassroots. We've got to get back to our communities, and we have to have parents involved in their children's education. And I believe that's what the parents want. That's what they tell me. That's why so many of these parents took their children out, if they could, of the public school and put them into private schools or homeschooled over this the past few years. And so I would definitely submit legislation to try to get that more school boards back into the local communities, local counties, and have the school boards ran by parents.
Great. Thank you for that response, Sheila. Bruce, you're next. You're on mute, buddy.
We're very dependent on tourism here in Maui, particularly Lahaina. What would you do as a state senator within your domain, as a state senator, to diversify our economy?
So thanks, Bruce. Thanks for asking. And we've seen what happens when we're dependent on our tourists. We've seen how the economy fails when tourists don't come here. Now, certainly, I'm not suggesting we shut down and not have any tourists here. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and people all over the country want to come, not just the country, but the world, want to come here and experience the aloha and the beauty of our islands. So, but what we do need to do is diversify. And the first and main way, easiest way, is to use our agricultural richness in order to combat this the tourism, the dependency on the tourism. We can easily follow the model that Senator Brenton Awa has come up with on Oahu. He's planting breadfruit trees and apple bananas everywhere he can in public spaces so that we can feed our local population. And I'm definitely committed to doing a program like that here on Maui so that we can start this breadfruit. We can use breadfruit, we could use hemp, and we could also use bamboo. Although it's invasive, I understand, but those are 3 easy crops that we could grow to produce enough income for us to survive. And the breadfruit we could survive on if we had to eat it, but we can also export it. And the other items we could export. Hemp is underutilized product or a commodity and an agricultural commodity that we should be utilizing, hemp and bamboo. I mean, both of those products can be turned into everything from clothing to housing to flooring. We could be so sustainable if we would just cultivate those 2 crops with the breadfruit. So I'm a proponent of using our agricultural resources to augment our tourism and going back to like what we originally relied on, which was agriculture. And certainly there's other ideas too. And I have a plethora of ideas. The ideas are easy. Those come freely. There's tons of simple solutions. It's implementing those. That is the issue here. We have to implement and we have to start somewhere. So I'm a big fan of Brenton Awa's program, and I will be bringing that here. Whether or not I get into the Senate seat, I am going to implement his program. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you follow Brenton Awa because it's a brilliant program that he's introduced over on Oahu, and we can do it here as well.
Fantastic. You know, what matters most to anyone in the legislature isn't anybody can sit there and, say yes or no on a bill, but championing a bill all the way through, writing it, putting it through. If you made it into the Senate, what would be your 3 most favorite bills that you would champion from start to finish?
Okay, so look, I'm not delusional. I'm in. It's a 4-year seat. I know my first year I'll be a freshman. I don't know how much power I'll have. I don't know if I'll even be able to submit any bills my first year. Not sure. I mean, I'm hopeful, but even if I'm not, the one thing I can do is combat the bad bills. And I will bring all the bad bills to light and make sure those do not get through. So, so that will be a project in and of itself. And then moving forward, the things that I do want to see is like how to bring more income and more businesses and more money to the Lahaina area, because that will obviously have to be the focus. And right now, Kihei is our main hub of income. So I want to support the small businesses in Kihei as well. So I will look at the Kihei situation, supporting that, and getting Lahaina up and running. And then again, more money for the 2 firehouses that are desperately needed here, and that hospital. So those are my key things, along with the connector road from Lapoa to Haile and finishing the bypass. So it needs to go all the way up to the airport in Kaanapali. So infrastructure and rebuilding Lahaina. That is the only thing that's important at this point, supporting the local community and listening to what they want. If I hear them say so they want something differently, I'm happy to support whatever it is that they want. But right now, that's all I'm hearing from them.
Thank you, Sheila. Okay, Ann, you're next.
So Sheila, I know that you have experience in maintaining businesses, but how do you feel about these more and more out-of-state people and corporations are buying and owning property in Hawaii? And should they be taxed a higher rate?
I think it's totally appropriate to put a halt on people buying out of country. Foreign purchasers definitely need to be halted. So I think that's an appropriate measure to take. About the out of state people coming here buying up our property, that's a thing that I think we should really think about, and we should consider. Does that improve our community? How does it improve our community? And if we tax them more, or is that really a constitutional right? I mean, should people from other states be prohibited from coming here? I mean, we can go to other states and buy property, right? So within the United States, I'm not sure that that's appropriate, but foreign countries, absolutely. Foreigners should definitely not be able to come here and buy up our land. So I think I would take up more of the issue with the foreign countries and foreign companies purchasing our land and doing business here than I would other United States citizens. So that makes more sense to me, but I wouldn't mind taking a look at some options for, out of state people, but really what we should look at too are shipping the out of state homeless people here, because that's creating a lot of our issues as well for our economy and our housing. Not that they're in houses because they're homeless, but there's that's a combined. I'm kind of skipping over your question, but that's a concern for me, that people are moving here from other states that are homeless and they're being shipped here. And
who's shipping them here?
so exactly, that's a good question. So it's been known that some states provide transportation for their homeless people to get here. So, and we do have a program where we can ship them back if we find a family member who will agree to pay half of it. But no one that's already a bill that's on the books. But no one enforces this, and no one goes around finding these people and saying, "Hey, let's contact your relatives, and if they'll pay half, then we'll ship you back." So no one enforces this. So it's a great, it's a great bill. I mean, or it's a great law or idea, but it's not enforceable. So it doesn't help. The thing of it is, if you come here and you're homeless, if you don't have a permanent address or an address you're going or a hotel or something, then you need to have a ticket home. You can't come here on a one-way ticket. So I would be more interested in talking about this issue. Getting here with a one-way ticket, you have to have a return flight unless you have unless you can prove that you have means to either, buy here, rent here, actually contribute to our community here. But if you're just coming here on a one-way pass and you're homeless and you don't have a job, nah, that's we need stronger borders, because we are a border state and we are being invaded. And with all of the homeless people also comes a whole other set of issues. As you know, mental health issues that we don't have the resources for, drug issues that we don't have the resources for. So they are sucking up our local resources. So I consider that more of a threat to our community than the out-of-state people moving here.
Right. Wouldn't it, I don't know how you would determine if somebody was sent here from a homeless shelter who paid for that, because that might be kind of hard to track down.
Well, let's look into it. Why not?
If you could find that out, you could possibly enforce it, right? Okay, well, thank you.
So we're going to do our last round of questions, Sheila. And my last question that I have has to do about abortion rights. Certainly, since the states have more control and oversight as to what happens in that category, where do you stand? Because again, our state representatives have a lot of say into the future of this type of issue. So
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm not afraid to tackle this one, because I'm one of the few people who stands for the right to life. I will always stand for life first. That is my stance, and I'm not going to change it. There's no denying that I'm a Christian and my faith requires that I stand for life. Although I do believe that it's the state that should determine what their laws are for their state and not a federal issue. And above that, I not just kind of, I believe that it should be an issue between a woman and her doctor, and it doesn't have any place in politics. And this whole argument needs to just go away and stop being such a political divide, because this is the only thing at the moment that's dividing Republicans and Democrats. And I think it's just a horrible, horrible issue that we have to fight over a baby's life and decide like, oh, that makes one person a Democrat or that makes one person a Republican. I think this is a tired issue, and I think it's been politicized to determine how you're going to vote. And I think it's unfair to women who are involved and the women who are trying to decide what to do with their reproductive situation. That should be between them and their doctor or their God or whoever they are involved with. But in the Christian faith, we believe in supporting life at all cost, and there should be more options for these women who might want to choose a different source than to have an abortion. And I absolutely stand against our public taxes going towards Planned Parenthood. So I do not think we should all be forced to contribute to a abortion clinic just because that's what our taxes say we have to do, especially Christians who are absolutely against that. We should not have to pay taxes to go to Planned Parenthood. Our taxes should go to more supportive organizations that support moms who want to have their babies, but maybe don't have the money or don't have support of a family or don't have a father in the picture. So those women need to be supported even more so than the women who want to get instant abortions. And absolutely the idea of having abortion like up to the 9th month is just outrageous. And anyone who wants to support that, in my mind, is just a murderer, straight up murder. So I stand for life.
okay, thank you, Sheila. Bruce, you're next. You're on mute.
We only have a couple weeks of food on this island. If the boats stop coming, we're in big trouble really quick. So food sovereignty, food security is a big issue on a little island. What would you do as a state senator to increase our food security and food sovereignty?
Well, we can't do anything about the ships that will stop coming here, right? So if they stop, they stop. And so and honestly, if the ship stops coming, then the flights out of here will stop as well. So we're talking basically about a doomsday event. So as a senator, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I can do anything about that. But I will say, I hope we all have a God that we pray to. And my idea is to pray, because let's hope it doesn't come to that. But if we did abolish the Jones Act, we would have more options for bringing more supplies here at a lower cost. So that Jones Act needs to be abolished. And if you're not familiar with what the Jones Act is, just I'll give you like just a little quickie. That all ships that come here have to be made in the U.S. and have to be verified by the U.S. And so that means ships can't come here from any other port. So if we did need immediate emergency food from any other country, they couldn't even bring supplies here. So that in and of itself is a tragedy. So we need to abolish this Jones Act so that we can get supplies here, and honestly pray that it doesn't come to that, because we know we're isolated thousands of miles away from everyone else. And that would basically be the apocalypse here, because there's nothing we can do. Even if we're all growing our own gardens, if the boats stop, the airplanes stop, you can guarantee, yeah, our tiny little gardens won't help us, and chaos will break out. So I'm not sure. I don't think that's a Senate issue. I think that's a global issue. And we have to all just come together and pray that we are smart enough as human beings to come together and not allow that to happen in the first place.
Thank you.
And we'll ask our final question.
Oh, hi. Okay, hi Sheila. So I think some of the big issues besides housing is water rights. And when the fire burned, there was no water available. And there's a problem with privatization of water, misuse of water in Lahaina. And there was the charter amendment passed in 2000, 2 years ago, about EMI, the county having authority over EMI. And do you think that could apply that to Lahaina? How do you feel about the water rights?
So, thanks, Anne. Thanks and I'm passionate about this one too, because look, we live on one of the rainiest spots in the world. West Maui Mountains is supposed to be the highest rainfall, the second highest rainfall of any other place in the world. So how can that be? Look, I'm not a scientist. I mean, I have no idea how this works, but I know that we have plenty of water here, and we have plenty of fresh water that's underneath our water table here. So, but we have to drill. We have to drill deep to get fresh water. We can't rely on our aquifers. And the idea that a Canadian company owns most of our water rights, it's just, it's painful. It's ridiculous. It's sad. And that our previous mayor like sold us out to Canada over that. It's appalling.
Are you referring to Maui Pono? I mean, Maui Pono.
Yes,
But,
yes.
Sorry.
Yes, the Maui Pono is a Canadian company that that bought up the water rights so that they can, they get the water. And so there has to be better solutions. And other communities have figured out how to convert their natural rainfall to help support their water. And whether we have to use hydroponics up in the West Maui Mountains or whatever we can do to create more fresh water, and this diversion thing has to stop. Maui was flourishing back in its heyday when before they started diverting the streams. There's no reason why water can't flow prolifically from the mountaintop to the ocean. So it boggles my mind that they've done this to this island. They've created a desert environment here, which this place was not meant to be a desert. It was a lush jungle environment over the entire island. I mean, maybe a couple parts were arid, but yeah. So we need to get back to the original way the water is supposed to flow here, and do away with these foreign countries owning our water rights. And we need to have more control over how our water is used. and stop letting the, I mean, and the people are mad. You know, I hear it from the people. They're frustrated because they can't wash their car up in Kula, but the swimming pools down in, you know, in Kihei have like plenty of water in the swimming pools. That's just not fair. Why are we taking care of our tourists before we take care of the people who actually live here and who are the backbone of this community? It just
Right.
does not make sense. And we have to be able to supply enough water to our own food sources to sustain ourselves. So I'm this whole water rights thing, but this again, this is another issue that it's not new. It's been going on forever and ever and ever. So the legislators who are in office, are they doing anything about it? Evidently not. Do they care? I don't know. I mean, they've voted all this stuff in, and certainly so again, I'm passionate and I want to see the water going to the right people. It needs to go to the farmers. It needs to go to the people. And yes, we can't just do away with all of the resorts. We can't do away with all the visitors that come here because that is our bread and butter right now. But we can move slowly but surely away from that and regain our water rights and make our island flourish. And that will also eliminate the fire hazards that are what we're susceptible to now. Because I mean, all of this fire issue is because of the way they've diverted the water, in my opinion.
Well, thank you, Sheila, for this
Thank you.
interview and for giving your opinion on so many different topics that we covered. Again, this is the Maui Pono Network, and we are going for the 2024 elections. So we'll be interviewing a lot more people who are running different campaigns for state senate, for our state reps, as well as the county council. So please stay tuned as we keep on doing our interviews so that you can have information so that when you go to the voting booth, you can be an informed voter. Mahalo.